1.73 million cars were repossessed in 2024, the highest number since the 2008 financial crisis. But that's not the scary part. The scary part is what's happening right now in July 2025. I'm standing in a dealer auction where 60% of the cars rolling through are repos, and the dealers bidding on them are telling me something that should terrify every automaker in America. We can't sell these fast enough to keep up with what's coming. The repo crisis isn't just destroying families, it's about to collapse the entire used car market, trigger massive losses at banks, and force automakers to completely rethink how Americans buy cars. What I'm about to show you isn't just a financial crisis. It's the warning shot that the $1.8 trillion auto industry refused to hear. Right now, 6.56% of subprime auto borrowers are more than 60 days behind on their payments. That's the highest rate in over a decade. But here's what makes this different from 2008. Back then, we had a housing bubble to blame. This time, it's pure automotive overextension. Americans are drowning in car payments they never should have qualified for, and the entire industry is about to pay the price. The average new car payment is now $745 per month. The average used car payment is $521. For context, that means the typical American needs to work 37.3 weeks just to afford the average new car. Not the payment, the entire car. We've created a system where transportation has become a luxury that most people can't actually afford, and now the math is catching up with everyone. Let me show you exactly how bad this has gotten, because the numbers tell a story that should make every bank executive, auto dealer, and car manufacturer lose sleep. 1.73 million vehicle repossessions in 2024. That's a 16% increase from 2023 and a staggering 43% increase from 2022. We're not talking about a gradual trend. This is an acceleration that's happening in real time. Every single day, 4,740 Americans lose their cars to repossession. That's one car every 18 seconds. But 2024 was just the warm-up act. The 2025 numbers are terrifying. As of July, 6.56% of subprime borrowers are 60 or more days delinquent on their auto loans. To put that in perspective, during the 2008 financial crisis, subprime auto delinquencies peaked at 5.9%. We've already blown past that number, and we're only halfway through the year. Sarah Chen, a senior auto finance analyst at Moody's, told me something that should chill every investor in automotive stocks. We haven't seen delinquency rates this high since 2008. The difference is, this time there's no housing bubble to blame. This is pure automotive overextension. People are choosing between car payments and groceries are winning. The payment crisis is the root of everything. The average new car payment has hit $745 per month. 5 years ago, it was $515. That's a 45% increase, while median household income has grown just 12%. The math simply doesn't work anymore. Americans are spending 20% of their gross income on car payments alone, before insurance, gas, and maintenance. Used cars aren't providing relief either. The average used car payment is now $521 per month, up from $365 just 3 years ago. We've priced regular families out of reliable transportation, and they're making desperate choices to get to work. The affordability crisis is stark. It now takes 37.3 weeks of median household income to buy the average new car. In 2019, it took 32.1 weeks. We're moving in the wrong direction at an accelerating pace. When transportation requires 3/4 of a year's income, something has to break. Dr. Michelle Rodriguez, an automotive economist at the University of Michigan, explained the systemic risk. What we're seeing isn't just individual financial distress. It's a structural breakdown in how Americans access transportation. When car payments consume this much household income, it creates cascading effects throughout the economy. The regional data reveals the crisis isn't evenly distributed. States like Texas, Florida, and Georgia are seeing repo rates 40% above the national average. These are states with large populations of service workers who need cars to get to multiple jobs but can't afford the payments on vehicles that actually run reliably. The demographic breakdown is even more troubling. Borrowers aged 25 to 34 represent 38% of all repos, despite being just 22% of the population. These are people in their prime earning years who should be building wealth, not losing cars to repossession. Credit scores tell the same story. The average credit score for a repossessed vehicle loan is 580, but 23% of repos involve borrowers with scores above 650. This isn't just subprime lending gone wrong, it's prime borrowers getting crushed by payments they thought they could handle. The loan-to-value ratios reveal the depth of the problem. The average repo involves a borrower who owes $8,400 more than their car is worth. They can't sell their way out of the problem, and they can't refinance because they're underwater. Repossession becomes the only option, and it destroys their credit for years. This isn't just a financial crisis. It's a mobility crisis that's about to reshape how Americans think about car ownership. And the industry that created this problem is about to learn that what goes up in an unsustainable way always comes down hard. Every year, a predictable financial trap plays out. It starts in February with tax refunds and ends in June with a flood of repossessions. In 2025, this cycle hit harder than ever. Dealers call it repo season, and this year has been the worst on record. Here's how it works. Americans receive around $3,200 in tax refunds. Dealers capitalize on that surge with ads like, "Use your refund as a down payment," and "No money down with your refund." Many buyers jump into loans they can't sustain, lured by short-term affordability, but trapped by long-term payments. One example, Marcus Williams put his entire refund down on a $35,000 Ford F-150. It worked until overtime at work dried up. By summer, he was choosing between car payments and groceries. The truck was repossessed 3 months later. He still owes $8,000 more than the truck is worth and no longer has transportation to work. His story is far from unique. Repo companies across the country are overwhelmed. In Phoenix, one firm jumped from 50 to 200 repos per month. At Manheim, Dallas, 60% of the vehicles crossing the auction block are repos. But even there, quality has plummeted. Dealers report repos with major mechanical issues and interiors too damaged to resell without major repairs. The economics are collapsing. Dealers now have too many repos to choose from, and most aren't worth the reconditioning cost. Auction bids are dropping, and banks are absorbing steep losses because these vehicles aren't selling anywhere near what's owed. Behind this is a deeper issue. Tax refunds offer temporary buying power, but car prices and monthly payments have surged. People are making financial decisions in February they can't sustain by June. Experts say it's a growing seasonal debt trap, made worse each year by rising costs. The fallout is brutal. Repo lots are overflowing. Cars are sitting for weeks, unprocessed. Banks are piling up defaults while families like Maria Gonzalez's, who lost her 2022 Nissan Altima after 3 missed payments, are left without transportation and job access. Tech is also fueling the acceleration. Repossession companies now use license plate readers, GPS tracking, and social media to locate cars within 24 hours. Hiding from repossession is nearly impossible, and the confrontations are getting worse. Repo agents report that people are more desperate, more emotional, and sometimes aggressive. When a car disappears, so does someone's job, access to school, or ability to care for family. For many Americans, a car isn't a luxury, it's survival. While families lose their cars and dealers drown in repo inventory, panic is rising behind the scenes at banks and credit unions, and it's threatening the auto lending system itself. Auto loan charge-offs hit $28.4 billion in 2024, the worst since 2009. But internal forecasts point to over $40 billion in 2025. Auto loan losses are approaching Great Recession levels, said David Park, a former executive at a major auto lender. This time, it's not the economy. It's pure automotive overextension. Banks are panicking over subprime exposure. The panic is justified. Wells Fargo's charge-offs are up 47%. Bank of America lost $2.1 billion in Q1 2025 alone. Credit unions are faring worse. Navy Federal warned that up to 15% of their auto portfolio may go uncollectible within 18 months. Standards are tightening fast. Credit score minimums jumped from 620 to 680. Debt-to-income limits dropped from 45% to 38%. Loan-to-value caps are falling to 110%. We approved 70% of apps 6 months ago, said Jennifer Walsh, a loan officer in Ohio. Now it's maybe 40%. Every app gets heavy scrutiny. Captive finance arms like Ford Credit and GM Financial are in deep trouble. Ford has written off $4.2 billion in 2025. GM's delinquencies hit 8.3%. A leaked GM presentation warned, "We're facing an existential crisis." Floor plan financing is also under stress. "We're financing dealer inventory packed with repos," Park said. "It's creating liquidity risks that could shutter dealers." Mike Thompson, who runs 3 used car lots, is already seeing it. "My $500,000 floor plan line now needs inspections, title checks, and has 3% higher interest. Lenders are spooked. Regulators are responding. The OCC now requires banks to stress test auto portfolios. The Fed is considering tighter reserve requirements. But the real fear is what happens next. One shock, gas prices or unemployment, and this could collapse, Park warned. The system's more fragile than anyone wants to admit. We're already seeing dominoes fall. Banks are selling bad loans for 15 to 20 cents on the dollar, and collections agencies are overwhelmed. Even Experian reports auto loans now make up 34% of all negative credit events, up from 18% 2 years ago. Banks created this mess with easy credit and aggressive lending. Now, they're finding out just how expensive that gamble really was. The used car market is facing a breakdown not seen since the 1970s. A flood of repos no one wants. Dealer lots are filling with cars that can't sell, and the ripple effects are reshaping how Americans think about car values and ownership. The numbers are staggering. Manheim reported a 73% increase in repos in early 2025 compared to 2024. But dealer demand has dried up. Too much junk, too little interest. "We used to fight over good repos," said Tom Bradley, who's been buying auction cars for 23 years. "Now, most are trashed. Blown engines, ruined interiors, not worth fixing." Data from Black Book backs him up. Repos now average $3,400 in reconditioning costs, nearly triple that of trade-ins. And it's getting worse. Maria Santos, who lost her 2021 Honda Civic, explained, "When I knew they were coming for it, I stopped caring. Why fix something I wasn't keeping? I was angry and broke." Prices are spiraling fast. In January, repos sold for 18% less than similar retail units. By June, the discount was 27%. The message is clear. Repo values are tanking. This is dragging the whole used market down. Underwater loans are rising as even clean used cars lose value. "I'm seeing 2022 cars that were $35,000 now worth $18,000, said Jennifer Kim, a used car appraiser. That drags everything else down with them. Small dealers are getting squeezed. "I used to buy for $8,000, sell for $12,000, said Carlos Rodriguez of Rodriguez Motors. "Now, I'm buying at $6,000 and selling at $8,500. Margins are gone. Franchise dealers are hurting too. They're taking fewer trade-ins and losing sales to cheap repos. A customer looks at our $24,000 certified Camry, then sees a repo for $17,000 across town, said Mike Patterson, GM of a Toyota dealer. "Sure, ours is better, but $7,000 is $7,000. Lenders are taking massive hits. A 2023 F-150 financed at $45,000 might only fetch $28,000 at auction. That's a $17,000 loss before costs. Consumers are caught in the crossfire. The repo flood leaves buyers choosing between overpriced clean cars or damaged repos. Sarah Mitchell, a single mom in Dallas, searched for months after totaling her Accord. Everything was junk or too expensive. I bought a repo Altima for $14,000 and spent $2,800 in the first month. I had no choice. The collapse is also stalling new car sales. With trade-in values plunging, buyers can't afford to upgrade. We're seeing deals fall apart, Patterson said. People owe $22,000 on cars worth $16,000. They can't make up the gap, so they drive them into the ground. This isn't a short-term blip. The market assumed used cars would hold their value. With repos flooding the system, that assumption has collapsed, and so has the pricing model built on it. The repo crisis has exposed an uncomfortable truth. The auto industry spent the last decade selling vehicles to people who couldn't afford them. Now that easy credit has collapsed, automakers are scrambling to find real buyers, and the numbers are brutal. Captive lenders like Ford Credit and GM Financial are hemorrhaging money. Ford Credit alone has written off $4.2 billion in bad loans since January 2025, 12% of its portfolio. "We've created a monster," said Jim Morrison, former GM Financial exec. "The repo crisis is forcing us to completely rethink how we sell cars. The old model is dead. Loan terms stretch from 65 months in 2019 to 73 months by 2024. Loan-to-value ratios often exceeded 125%, and down payments vanished. Leaked Ford documents show the company approved loans for customers with 65% debt-to-income ratios. "We approved high-risk loans because we needed to move inventory," Morrison admitted. "It worked until it didn't." Sales soared in 2021 to 2022, driven by risky loans and record profits. Now, those decisions are crashing down. In a leaked memo, GM CEO Mary Barra wrote, "Our financing practices created unsustainable debt burdens. We must pivot to sustainable lending, even if it means lower sales." That pivot is happening, fast, but it's shrinking the market. Tighter lending means fewer approvals, more unsold inventory, and industry-wide production cuts and layoffs. Stellantis is moving aggressively, eliminating 84-month loans and requiring 15% down. CEO Carlos Tavares was blunt. "We'd rather sell fewer cars to people who can afford them than continue the cycle of repossessions." Dealers are feeling the pain. Janet Williams, a Chevrolet dealer in Ohio, said, "We went from selling 180 cars a month to maybe 90. GM Financial went from approving 75% of our apps to 40%. It's killing our business." In response, automakers are exploring radical new models. Some are piloting subscription-style ownership, bundling insurance and maintenance with the car. Toyota Access lets Californians drive a car for $299 a month with no down payment, but Toyota retains ownership. "We're testing whether Americans are ready to give up ownership for affordability," said a Toyota executive. Ford Drive is testing a similar concept. Customers pay a flat monthly fee for a car, insurance, and service. Netflix for cars, as the program lead described it. No loans, no repos, just use it and walk away. Used car strategies are evolving too. GM launched Certified Direct, buying used cars from anyone, refurbishing them, and selling them directly. "We're building our own pipeline," Morrison said. "It's more expensive, but it protects the brand." At the heart of it all is the affordability crisis. With new car prices averaging $48,000, the income needed for sustainable financing is $120,000. Yet only 23% of U.S. households meet that bar. "We've priced ourselves out of the market," admitted a senior exec. "We added features customers wanted but couldn't afford. A $50,000 pickup isn't sustainable for the average family." The industry now faces a choice: build more affordable cars or sell to fewer wealthy buyers. The repo crisis didn't just break the system, it proved that the system was broken all along. The reckoning is here, and just beginning. The repo crisis didn't come out of nowhere. It was years in the making, with warning signs industry leaders and regulators chose to ignore. Everyone was making too much money to care, until the system cracked. It started in 2020, masked by pandemic policies. Moratoriums, stimulus checks, and enhanced unemployment temporarily suppressed repos, even as lending standards collapsed. "It created a false sense of security," said Dr. Robert Chen, economist at Stanford. "Repos dropped, but not because people could afford their cars. Government aid was the only thing holding it together. Cheap money fueled the fire. Near zero interest rates allowed banks to fund risky auto loans. Automakers pushed 0% financing and 84-month terms. Dealers eliminated down payments and pushed customers into vehicles they couldn't afford. We knew it couldn't last," admitted Jim Morrison, former executive at Ford Credit. "But profits were soaring, and no one wanted to be the one to pump the brakes. While car prices soared nearly 50% from 2019 to 2024, household incomes rose just 12%. Buyers stretched themselves thin to afford $60,000 trucks, and dealers made it easy to do so. Some buyers were spending 35% of their income on car payments, said financial advisor Sarah Martinez. They were told it was fine. It wasn't. Dealers had every incentive to keep pushing. Longer loans and bigger amounts financed meant bigger commissions. Finance managers earned bonuses for selling add-ons, and manufacturers paid out volume bonuses no matter the loan quality. We structured deals to squeeze every dollar from the customer, said Tony Rodriguez, a former finance manager. Regulators saw it coming. The CFPB and Fed issued warnings in 2022. State attorneys general opened investigations. The industry's response? Lobby harder, fight regulation, and deny the obvious. The most dangerous delusion came during the pandemic. With repos artificially paused and stimulus money flowing, executives convinced themselves the crisis was solved. We believed our own PR, said Morrison. The numbers looked good, but it was all fake. By 2023, reality set in. Average car payments reached 19% of median income. Nearly half of all loans stretched beyond 72 months. Most borrowers owed more than the car was worth from day one. Industry insiders saw it coming. Internal memos warned of inevitable correction. Leaked emails from 2022 show lenders admitting the bubble was unsustainable, but continuing anyway to protect short-term profits. The signs weren't subtle, they were blaring alarms. But the industry chose profit over prudence. Now, American families are left with the fallout. This repo crisis isn't just about people losing cars. It's a sign the entire auto industry, built on cheap credit, is finally buckling. Banks are pulling back, dealers are stuck with repo inventory, and automakers are scrambling to find real buyers. If you're thinking about buying, this changes everything. Easy credit is disappearing. Where 0% financing and 84-month loans were once standard, banks now demand 680-plus credit scores and 20% down. That era is over, and it's not coming back. Already have a car loan? Check your equity. If you owe more than your car's worth, you're vulnerable. Pay extra toward principal or trade down before you're trapped underwater. Buyers now face both risk and opportunity. Repos are flooding lots, but many are high-risk money pits. A $12,000 car can quickly become a $20,000 headache if you're not careful. Don't repeat the mistakes that caused this crisis. Just because you're approved for a $50,000 loan doesn't mean you can afford a $50,000 car. Stick to the 24-10 rule, 20% down, 4-year max loan, and under 10% of your gross income for all car costs. If you can wait 6 to 12 months, prices will likely drop further as desperation sets in. If you can't wait, buy smart. Reliable, affordable, and honest about your needs. Meanwhile, the real storm is still forming, a massive inventory bubble, luxury EVs with 400-plus days of supply, unsellable stock, dealerships bracing for price collapses and layoffs. Some call it the Great Automotive Reset. And if you know where to look, this chaos creates real opportunity, but only if you're informed. Want to avoid the worst cars in this coming crash? Get my free ebook, Avoid These 17 Cars in 2025. It's packed with insider data on the models most likely to collapse in value and the ones built to survive the storm. Because the repo wave was just the beginning. The real collapse, it's already here.